Hey everybody, this is TJR. As the title states, I will be discussing in this video my favorite scene from Avengers Endgame. But first, I do want to do a brief follow-up to the video that I did earlier in the week entitled, Did Captain America Destroy the MCU? And in that video, I kind of brought out some of the confusion and puzzlement I had with some of the time travel aspects of the film. Now, since then, a lot of people have left comments telling me their thoughts on it. And of course, I had mentioned that I was going to see it again and hopefully get a better understanding of the explanation given by Professor Hulk in the film. But honestly, even after I watched the film a second time, I still didn't quite get it. So afterwards, I managed to find an interview with the Russo brothers where they explained it. Now, before I get into that interview, I wanted to just talk about what I felt was really two of the best comments on this. The first comment was from Jet Force Juno, and he writes, "When you watch again on Tuesday, TJR, listen out for the section of dialogue with Professor Hulk that explains how the movie logic works. Captain America lives his life out to old age from the point in which he jumped to the past. Everything up to the point of his final time jump, including him being frozen in ice, stays true. The issue with this logic is that after Captain America reappears from the ice in 2011, there are two versions of him running around. The newly unfrozen version and the aging version that hooked up with Peggy after the time jump back to replace the stones. And Jet Force Juno, if we didn't have the Russo brothers' explanation, I think that this one is the best one. I like this idea that there would be two of him running around at a certain point. To me, that's fine. This other Captain America would just have to keep a low profile, and he would know that the Captain America Frozen in Ice, the proper timeline version, would take care of all the things that needed to be taken care of. But like I said earlier, after watching the movie the second time, I came across this interview with the Russo brothers. So apparently, according to them, if I understand this correctly, within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, if you go back into time and you change something, you don't change the Marvel Cinematic Universe timeline, you create a different dimensional timeline, and a timeline in a different dimension that branches off into another area. First of all, I would say this is an interesting solution for the series to be able to deal with time travel and not have to deal with time paradoxes. And this also makes sense with what the Ancient One told Bruce Banner about how taking the time stones might be great for his reality, but would be bad for hers. Meaning that the fact that the Avengers from the present day already went back into the past had already created an alternate timeline just by being there. And I think this all ties in nicely with the proposed What If series. I did a video about that a while back, but if you missed it, What If is going to be an animated series that explores alternate timeline realities of important events within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And it's based on the very popular What If comic book series, which took aspects of the Marvel comic book universe and then said, what if this had happened instead? Now, had we not gotten this explanation from the Russo brothers, then Jet Force Juno, your explanation would be perfect, and I would be perfectly happy with that explanation, and I was perfectly happy with it. Now, I also want to bring up a comment by another viewer going by the name of Upper Norwood. And Upper Norwood writes, "The time travel is just a means to an end. It's not like Inception or Interstellar, where it's a key part of the enjoyment. This movie was really about the characters and the moments between them." Upper Norwood, I agree. While I do find it interesting and fun to talk about all this, I don't want to make too big a deal out of it. If this movie were a 10-course meal, the time travel aspect would be just a side dish. This film is not a hardcore science fiction movie. And now that we're on the subject of the characters and the character moments and the humanity, I want to talk about what is my personal favorite scene from this entire film. As much as I love all the superhero action, as much as I love that huge spectacle of the third act, my favorite scene that keeps coming back to me, that I keep thinking about during this film, is a very quiet scene that's near the very beginning of the film. I'm talking about the scene with Tony Stark and Nebula aboard Rocket's spaceship and Tony Stark teaching Nebula how to play paper football. You've got these two characters who are from different worlds, from completely different backgrounds. They're both trapped on a spaceship, and time is running out. They're going to run out of food. They're going to run out of water. If I'm not mistaken, I believe also eventually they would just run out of power for the ship. They are eventually going to die. And Tony Stark tries to just show Nebula a little bit of humanity by getting her to engage in a little game of paper football. And there's this moment first where when he's teaching her, she takes this defensive stance and he's like, no, you don't have to do that. You just have to hold your ground. And you've got this fierce warrior who's having trouble just trying to figure out how to tap that little paper football so it can go over, Tony Stark's fingers, the way he has it, the way he's holding up his hands as like the goalpost. Then she starts to get the hang of it, and she finally gets it, and they play for a little while. And of course, they truncate this, they montage it basically. But when it's done and she's won the game, he says, "Hey, you won." And he puts out his hand to shake her hand and says, "Good sport." And he asks her, "Did you have fun?" And she says, "Yes, it was fun." And that moment to me was just so understatedly heartbreaking. You've got this character, Nebula, who has, since childhood, been both physically and mentally tortured by her adopted father, Thanos. She's probably never known any type of warmth or love or any type of sense of anything that's fun. Just simple human enjoyment, fun. She's probably never known that. And Tony gives her this little gift of just fun. It's a wonderfully understated moment. And it's the one scene that just keeps coming back to me and coming back to me. And the more I think about it, the more it just breaks my heart inside. Karen Gillan's performance is just amazing during this scene. Just the way she says, "Yes, it was fun." Just that very quiet way she says it. And of course, Robert Downey Jr., the anchor of the entire MCU, never phoning it in, always giving his A game every single time he's on screen for one of these films. That's my favorite scene in the whole movie. And please feel free to share your favorite scene. I'll be curious to read what you have to say. Thanks everyone for watching. Bye-bye.